This is indeed a beautiful day which the Lord has made. Let us rejoice in it and be glad, and let us count our many blessings. Let us be grateful for the capacity to see, to feel, to hear, and to understand. Let us be grateful for the incredible gift of life. Let us be grateful for all occasions of celebration and ceremony. And let us then be especially grateful for the ties of love which bind us together, giving dignity, meaning, worth, and joy to all our days. You do not have to be good. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination. Over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Greetings, all you ghosts and goblins. It's quite a sight looking from here. I understand you're going to be singing 2 songs for us, and you want the congregation to participate along with you? No, that's not what I hear. Well, you'll do what you're going to do, but during the singing of the second song, there is going to be a collection. If you've brought mittens, scarves, gloves, and so forth, there will be some of the ghouls and goblins collecting those. And I'm sure if you haven't brought those, dollar bills would also be acceptable. Go.
Doesn't matter. Okay, we're going to sing a song. It's called 3 Big Pumpkins, and it's like 3 blind mice. And first, we're all going to sing it together, and then we're going to do a round. And first and second is going to go first. Third and fourth is going to go second. Right? Right. Are you ready? Here we go. I need some adults to help do the motions up here. Who can help? Somebody? Here we go. Here we go. 3 big pumpkins, 3 big pumpkins. See how they glow, see how they glow. They grow to the left and they grow to the right. They're bound to give us a terrible fright. We'll see them all on Halloween night. 3 big pumpkins, 3 big pumpkins, 3 big ghosts. 3 big ghosts. See how they fly. See how they fly. They fly to the left and they fly to the right. They're bound to give us a terrible fright. We'll see them all on Halloween night. 3 big ghosts. 3 big ghosts. 3 black cats. 3 black cats. See how they run. See how they run. They run to the left and they run to the right. They're bound to give us a terrible fight. We'll see them all on Halloween night. 3 black cats. 3 black cats. Okay, you guys get set. Ready? Here we go. 3 big pumpkins. 3 big pumpkins. 3 big pumpkins. 3 big pumpkins. See how they glow. See how they glow. They fly to the left and they fly to the right. They're bound to give us a terrible fright. We'll see them all on Halloween night. 3 big ghosts. 3 big ghosts. 3 big ghosts. 3 big ghosts. See how they fly. See how they fly. They fly to the left and they fly to the right. They're bound to give us a terrible fright. We'll see them all on Halloween night. 3 black cats. 3 black cats. 3 black cats. 3 black cats. See how they run. See how they run. They run to the left and they run to the right. They're bound to give us a terrible fright. We'll see them all on Halloween night. 3 black cats. 3 black cats.
Any of these gone? Next, we'll do Magdalena, Hagdalena. Feel free to stand up and get into the spirit of this. You'll need to stand up to do the motions. Magdalena, Hagdalena, the words are in your bulletin. So just join right in. It'll make me feel a lot better. Okay, boys and girls, are you ready for Magdalena? Yeah. Okay, put your hands on your hips. I'm going to face the audience during the chorus. The adults can come out and do the motions too.
Should we do it where though?
Huh?
Should we do it so that I want people to see that? Should we just do it like
Yeah.
standing or?
Yeah. Let's do it. Okay. Stand up. Magdalena, Hagdalena, who can talk and shake and walk and
She had two eyes in the middle of her head. One was alive and the other one was dead. Angelina, Angelina, whooping, talking, chicken, walking, rootin', tootin', Newton was her name. She had two warts on the end of her nose. One was black and the other one still rose. Angelina, Angelina, whooping, talking, chicken, walking, rootin', tootin', Newton was her name. She had two teeth in the middle of her mouth, one pointing north and the other pointing south. Magdalena, Angelina, hootin', talking, chicken, walking, rootin', tootin', Newton was her name.
Who dares disturb the mighty one? Oh, I see you. I have been watching you all year. Nothing escapes notice of the mighty Oz. So it's Halloween again. Time for trick or treat. Time for more cold and more darkness. Time for the goblins to walk again. Time to disguise yourself and go out into the dark, into the magic and the unknown. Take care! I will be watching you. The mighty Oz has spoken. Now leave me. Go! Go! Go!
We missed that offering. The trickster is already at work, but we'll get a chance to we'll have two offerings together. I'll explain that in just a moment. First of all, I'd like to thank Wright McCarger and his group. They bring this very special sound to us today. I wonder what life would be like without the different kinds of music that both create and reflect the different moods of the human spirit. I have a couple of announcements. First of all, I've been asked to call your attention to the Red Cross blood drive that will be taking place next week. Seems like actually this would be a more appropriate week to take it. Dracula's already up there. But this is going to take place next week in our social hall from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And if you can participate and help out, please sign up today in our social hall. Next week, we also begin a 5-week series of church information classes, which will be held before the religious service from 9:45 to 10:35. Dr. Rankin will be presenting the first class on the philosophy of liberal religion, and there will be childcare available for that. Again, sign up at the information table today. Next Sunday, Dr. Rankin will restore us to a normal worship service, and he will conduct the service and preach the sermon. We'll have two offerings now. The 7th and 8th graders, the ghouls, are going to take that first offering of mittens. This is for children, mittens, gloves, hats, and scarves, and so forth. And this is for children who are in need. So if you don't have those, you might give a $1 bill or so as well. And then the second offering, the ushers will follow right behind them. I hope everybody heard that, and so that will take place right now. Thank you. Ever look at your life and wonder how you happen to be where you are, why your life has taken the particular course that it's taken? It's tricks, my friends. I believe it's tricks. In my own case, for example, I sometimes stop and it is Halloween. In my own case, I sometimes stop and say to myself, now how did you get here from there? It's not what I intended. It's not what I prepared myself for. It's true, from about the age of 10, I had it in my mind to be a minister. Actually, I wanted to be both a minister and a professional baseball player at the same time, kind of like Bobby Richardson, former second baseman of the New York Yankees. But I intended to be a minister, or at least I assumed I would be a minister in the church in which I grew up. I had no intention of leaving, of leaving the warm embrace of the religious community that had nourished me. It was a trick, and not a very pleasant one, that changed the course of my life. And that trick was called doubt. Doubt, the shadow side of faith. In the biblical book of Job, it was Satan, the doubter, the trickster, who turned Job's world upside down. Everything was going so well for both Job and Jehovah. Job was satisfied with Jehovah. Jehovah was satisfied with Job. As a matter of fact, Jehovah was so satisfied that he called Satan's attention to Job. He said to Satan, have you observed my faithful servant Job? There's none like him, an honest and upright man, faithful in all ways, blameless in all ways. I wonder, what's Jehovah doing there? This calling the attention of Satan to Job, it's like this is a setup. It's like Jehovah wants some action. When things are going so well in your life, everything seems so perfect, when you can see your life laid out step by step in front of you, then watch out. There's probably some excess energy lying around someplace, and there's going to be an eruption. And so it was that Satan, Jehovah's court jester, seemingly at Jehovah's invitation, turned Job's world upside down. And so it was that doubt also turned my settled world upside down. I was a missionary, I remember well, on the island of Guam in the South Pacific. It was then my crisis of faith reached its zenith, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I've tried every which way I know to make these doctrines work, and it's not happening. For almost a year, every morning, I woke up with a knot in the pit of my stomach because of the conflict between the beliefs I was supposed to be espousing and representing and my doubts about those beliefs. The trickster had me in his grasp and was turning the screws. Finally, I said, enough, Uncle, I've had it. And when I did, the whole scheme just collapsed. It collapsed like a child's toy erector set coming down. My idea of God, my idea of afterlife, my idea of salvation, nothing would hold, nothing would stand. It all fell, and I didn't know what I was going to do, where I was going. My settled world, my planned life was in shambles. Please note, I'm not not talking about the content of these beliefs. I'm not talking about the meaning or truth value of these doctrines, because since then I've been able to revisit some of them and have found new meaning, new value in them. Furthermore, I've talked to other persons who have grown up in religiously liberal congregations, such as this one, in some cases this one, persons who have experienced the same crisis of faith, but as it were from the other side. And they have found in those same doctrines a freedom which perhaps is comparable to the freedom I experienced in being released from them. So I'm not talking about the content of these doctrines. I'm talking about the resistance that comes into our settled world, about the doubt that shadows our faith. I'm talking about the tricks that come into our life and upset the course of our life and change our plans. And I don't know what the tricks in your life have been, what the obstacles have been to your planned life, what kind of reversals have taken place. But this time of Halloween is a time to think about these tricks and these reversals that come into our life. I like to speak of Halloween as the festival of the trickster. The trickster is an archetype, that is to say, an original pattern. And it comes to us in a variety of forms, a variety of guises. The clown, the fool, the court jester, the prankster, the rebel, some might say the teenager, and in darker form, the devil. The trickster, like a Mr. Hyde, comes at us from the other side. A side we're not paying attention to, a side perhaps we don't even know about. And he comes, and he upsets our plans, and he reverses and changes the course of our life. And there's one reversal that will come to all of us. It's the great reversal, the ultimate trick. I'm talking, of course, about the reversal of death. When our whole world is turned upside down, and we are asked to turn everything over, all our plans, all our intentions, all our possessions, to let go of the whole life and all the loves that we have spent a lifetime building up, to let go of the only home, this earthly home that we know. Halloween, of course, is filled with images and symbols of death. South of the border in Mexico, at this time of the year, they celebrate the Day of the Dead. The dead are remembered, and death is remembered. Families go to the graveyards, share meals with the ancestral dead. In Celtic ceremonies upon which our own Halloween festivals are built, it's the opposite. There, the dead come from the graveyards and visit us. Ghouls, goblins, ghosts appear on our doorsteps. They come from the underworld, our own innocent little children wearing the masks of death and decay. I'm in the 50th year of my life, and I can feel my conversation with death changing. Death coming to me in new and different ways. I notice that I don't so much count the number of my years. I begin now to count down the number of my years. And not even sometimes just the years of my life, but even sometimes the days of the years of my life. Last winter, Sue Cinnamon and I were doing a retreat, a coming-of-age retreat with some of the 9th and 10th graders from our church for these young people who are entering into the years, or on the verge of entering the years of independence. And we were doing a little exercise on life goals. And one of the young people said he liked to read, and one of the goals he had was to read 1 million books in his life. 1 million books. I wondered if that were possible, and so did some quick calculation. He's 15 years old. Let's say he has 65 years left. 65 times 365, about 24,000 days, roughly. 24,000 into a million, he'll have to read 42 books a day. And I looked at Sue in that room full of those young people. We're about the same age. And I said, Sue, how many days do we have left? Without accident, illness, or disease, things go well, perhaps 10,000. Now, to some of you, that may seem like quite a number, but at the time it didn't. It was a concrete number, and both of us grew strangely quiet. And I thought of the psalm, a new meaning to the words of Psalm 90. So teach us to number our days, that we may get us a heart of wisdom. Autumn is with us now, and already I begin to feel autumn in my own life. The leaves are turning, my hair is turning. Certain things I might like to have accomplished, they've already passed me by. Certain dreams I might like to have pursued, no longer possible. I think of the words of the poet Mary Oliver. You never know, traveling, around what bend the dreams will curve to an end, and what will happen then. I see now that the kingdom of God will not come upon this earth. There will be wars and rumors of wars. The poor, as Jesus said, you'll have with you always. The wolf and the lamb will not lie down together. There are times on the edge of sleep that I stumble into a dark hole. It's either just before going into sleep or coming out of sleep. Sometimes, occasionally, I stumble into a pit of darkness so penetrating that it feels like it has no bottom at all. And what do you do with this conversation with darkness, death, and the end of the dream? What do you do when you feel your own life's meaninglessness and purposelessness and that of life itself? I find that you don't resist it. You don't resist it. You don't resist the darkness of despair. You let it come upon you. The responsive reading this morning says, tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. The word here is surrender. Surrender to the darkness, to the chaos, to the purposelessness, to the thing you hate, to the thing you resist. Try to speak to it. See if you can learn its name. Try to find out about that wall of meaninglessness and fear in your life. Feel the texture of that wall. Become acquainted with it, because that wall is larger than you, and it won't do to keep bumping your head against it. 12-step programs such as Alcoholics Anonymous, and I really think all religious systems and spiritual disciplines are built on the understanding that what blocks you is your own unwillingness and refusal to surrender to the thing that you resist and that resists you. That wall of resistance will not become a door until you surrender to it. I believe this is what Jesus had in mind when he said, the one who would find his life must lose it. Things shift when we surrender or confess. I saw just a small part of an interview a few weeks ago with the former evangelist, Jimmy Baker. I really haven't followed his story much, but I understand that he's just being released from prison after serving several years for fraud and whatever else. In the part of the interview I saw, he didn't resist. He did not try to defend himself. He did not try to rationalize his actions. He talked about his wrongdoing, confessed his wrongdoing. He talked about unfulfilled longings that he had. He wished his former wife, who had left him, he wished her well. And he even wished his former best friend, who had taken off with his former wife, he wished her well too. I felt my attitude shifting toward him. I'm sure all of you have experienced times where there was something that deeply bothered you, and it would not go away, and it would not go away, and it would not go away. And finally, you surrendered to it. You quit defending. You quit rationalizing. And most of all, you quit trying to fix the problem. You simply confessed your weakness. You confessed what was bothering you. You gave in to it. Probably you spoke to another person. And when you did, at that moment, the shift began to take place, and you could feel the weight of that burden shifting. Same burden, but the weight shifts. Maybe someday it falls completely. And we can't fix death either. The burden of death will not go away. But perhaps the weight can be shifted. If we don't, if we just keep resisting, the weight just increases. It's the trickster's job to help us try to shift that weight. It's the trickster who leads us into a conversation with death. And he stands on the other side of our wall of resistance to death, and he pokes at it, and he prods at it, and he plays little tricks with us to try to get us to loosen up with respect to it. We watch our own bodies, like aging cars, begin to fall apart on us. Rust spots appear, and there goes the paint job. There's squeaking, a grinding, and there go the ball joints. There go the springs of the car. You hear strange internal noises in the engine. There goes a valve or two. Can you laugh? Can you laugh with the trickster? He laughs because he knows it's a play. He knows something that we often don't. He knows what's on the other side of the wall of our resistance. He knows what's on the other side of our resistance to death. He knows what's on the other side to death. He knows there's a larger reality than the reality to which we've been clinging. Because here's the thing. The trickster works for God. That is to say, he works for the whole of reality, which includes both birth and death. In the book of Job, it was Satan, Jehovah's shadowy partner, who brought forth the revelation. He poked and he prodded and he pried at Job until Job had finally had it and gave up. He finally quit, and then the revelation occurred, and he saw the transcendence of God. When is the day that you will quit defending yourself? Awaken to the fact that this is your life, that the kingdom of God will not come. Realize that things are not going to get better. That can be a great day spiritually. And occasionally we do wake up, don't we? we see the value of what we already have. I said the kingdom of God will not come. In the Gospel of Thomas, which is not part of the canonical gospel, not included with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, there's another rendering of the Christian message in a way. And there we find a little passage which says, "The kingdom of the Father is spread upon the earth, but humans do not see it. The kingdom will not come. Rather, for those with eyes to see, ears to hear, hearts to believe, and minds tough enough to pierce through, the kingdom is already here." And I said earlier that the ultimate trick is death. I believe I was wrong about that as well. The ultimate trick is not death. The ultimate trick is being. Being itself. Something is, rather than nothing. And that something is eternal. Now, that's a trick you can spend many lifetimes contemplating. And the trick for us, then, is to identify with the eternal, with being itself, and not our own particular incarnation of being. If you identify with your body, with your mind, with your beliefs, with the causes that you serve, with your religion, even with your deity, if you identify with any particular concrete thing, then you're in trouble. Because these things will pass away, and they are already passing away. The trick is to participate fully in these things and yet simultaneously to hold them all lightly, knowing that death is in all of them. And the trick to doing that, that is to say, the trick to having full participation and full surrender, as I say, is to identify with the consciousness, with the being, with the life force, with the power of God. You pick your term. But to identify with that which moves in and through all particular concrete things, or as the Hindus say, it's that which puts on bodies and sheds bodies as a human being changes clothing throughout the day. The little couplet, the little poetic couplet in the bulletin today from a member of our congregation who just died last month, Ann Wentland, a beautiful, succinct little statement of this. She had written, "Everything we have, we borrow, all our joy and all our sorrow." When my theological system collapsed when I was on the island of Guam, it was both a frightening and a freeing experience. As I said, I didn't know where I was going, what I was going to do. I didn't know what was on the other side of that wall of resistance. But when that system of belief to which my ego was attached, when that collapsed, suddenly there was an inrush of new energy, and I found it to be an unbelievably freeing experience. And I remember there on the island, the ocean was just a short distance from my house, and often I would just go out into the ocean and for long periods of time simply float in those warm, salty waters, tasting the delicious salt on my lips, floating and floating, carried by the tides, just being buoyed and lifted up. It felt to me like I was being carried by what I can once again call the grace of God. And indeed, I was free. The trickster who comes to us at Halloween with all these images and symbols of death can be our teacher, teaching us through his tricks about freedom and about larger life. Now, sometimes these tricks are unbelievably painful, more than words can tell. And yet, beyond this excruciating pain, I believe, is something else. For he teaches us that on the other side of the wall of our resistance, there's always something more. And that even death, if we can fall into it, is a door to something larger, to a larger reality. I'm not speaking here about any intellectual doctrine of life after death. I'm talking about an experience. I'm talking about the experience of falling into the darkness of death and finding yourself carried and buoyed even in the midst of it. I'm talking about learning through death and from death that we belong to a larger reality that always was, always is, and always will be. The words of Carlos Castaneda regarding death and the values of death have stood me in good stead for many years. He writes, "Death is our eternal companion. It is always to our left, at an arm's length. The thing to do when you're impatient is to turn to your left and ask advice from your death. An immense amount of pettiness is dropped if your death makes a gesture to you, or if you catch a glimpse of it, or if you just have the feeling that your companion is there, watching you."